This podcast contains descriptions of violence against children and adult language and is not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Suffer the Little Children, the podcast giving voices back to the victims of child abuse, murder, and their families. I'm your host, Lane, and this is episode 190, Raylee Browning, Retold, Part 3. In parts 1 and 2, I told you about Raylee Browning, a sweet, gentle, loving 8-year-old girl whose father, his girlfriend, and the girlfriend's sister made Raylee their scapegoat for years, putting her through horrific abuse and neglect, all because she had a different mommy than the other 3 kids in the home. In this episode, I'll finish telling you Raylee's story, going into detail about the testimony given during the criminal trial of Raylee's father, Marty Browning Jr., his then-girlfriend, Sherie Titchenell, and Julie's sister, Sherie Titchenell. I'll tell you about the outcome of that trial. I'll also share with you a little bit about who Raylee JoLynn Browning was, mainly through her loving mommy's recollections of her. This is part 3 of the harrowing story of Raylee Browning. In the last episode, we talked about a lot of things, including Raylee's autopsy report, the horrific reports her step-sibling made to a counselor, proposed legislation inspired by Raylee's story, and ending with the lead-up to the trial. That's where I'll pick up now. Before the trial, the defense team paid Dr. Cyril Wecht, a celebrity forensic pathologist, to review Raylee's autopsy. Dr. Wecht, a paid defense expert, determined in his professional opinion that Raylee had died of natural causes due to complications of pneumonia. In my opinion, there's no way on earth Dr. Wecht was given all of this case's background information before making his determination. Also, Prosecutor Brian Parsons pointed out in court that Dr. Wecht was not qualified to answer questions related to pediatric care or CPS investigations. The trial was delayed several times. Finally, the joint trial of Marty Browning Jr., Sherie Titchenell Browning, and Sherie Titchenell began with jury selection on Monday, June 6, 2022, 3.5 years after Raylee's death. Judge Paul Blake presided over the trial in Fayette County Circuit Court. The prosecution had previously offered plea deals to both Marty and Julie, but neither accepted. Sherie got no such offer, likely because all signs pointed to her being the main abuser. On the first day of testimony, jurors heard from several medical professionals. EMT Angela Coleman was on the scene on December 26, 2018, as Sherie carried Raylee's limp body out of the house, telling the paramedics that Raylee fell while getting out of the shower. Ms. Coleman described Sherie as emotionless and casual as she handed Raylee's lifeless cyanotic body to Ms. Coleman's partner. Ms. Coleman testified that it didn't appear Raylee was breathing, and when her partner lifted Raylee's shirt to attempt to resuscitate her, Ms. Coleman saw splotches or bruises all over Raylee's body. Emergency room physician Dr. Dilip Gaudasara testified that Raylee arrived at Plateau Medical Center at 11:55 a.m. on the day of her death. She was pronounced dead 32 minutes later at 12:27 p.m. During those 32 minutes, he testified, a team of 5 to 6 nurses tried to resuscitate Raylee, gave her IV fluids and medicine, performed CPR and other life-saving measures, and checked her heart rhythm. This, he said, was done based on protocol, even though when Raylee arrived in the ER, she showed no signs of life, her heart was not beating, and her body was so cold that hospital equipment couldn't register her temperature. When asked which family members he spoke to, the doctor said he talked to Julie twice, but never Janice. There were 2 times. The first time was when they came into the ER. There was that same person that I believe I am talking to the child's mother. It turns out to be the child's stepmother, and I believe I talked to them twice. When he informed Marty and Julie that Raylee had died, the doctor said, Julie stayed calm and seated. Marty began crying and pacing. Dr. Gaudasara adamantly testified that he believed Raylee was the victim of abuse. 2 of the ER nurses also testified, saying Julie's demeanor was abnormal in those circumstances. One of them testified that around Julie, she felt like she was in the presence of evil. Nurses Tamara McGinnis and Virginia Kessler testified about the injuries they saw covering Raylee's body, saying the markings indicated to them that Raylee was abused, which was why they didn't allow Marty to see Raylee's body after her death was pronounced. Ms. McGinnis told the court she felt the need to protect Raylee's body. In her 18 years of nursing, she said, she never saw a child's body look like Raylee's did. The jury was shown 10 photos taken of the injuries while Raylee was in the ER, including close-ups of her abdomen, forehead, neck, legs, and back. One photo depicted the second-degree burn mark on Raylee's right leg, which the ER doctor testified could have been caused by a cigarette. Ms. Kessler testified that Julie arrived at the hospital before Marty did, describing Marty as rattled and upset. Julie, she said, did not appear upset, and after she learned that Raylee was dead, asked how long the procedures usually take. Got somewhere more pressing to be? Raylee's pediatrician since 2014, Dr. Michelle Staten, also took the stand, testifying that Julie did most of the talking during Raylee's many appointments. During her last few visits, she said, she noticed that Raylee had lost a significant amount of weight. Some of the concerns Marty and Julie brought up over the years, she said, were low blood sugar, skin picking, and behavioral issues. Dr. Staten gave them referrals for Raylee to see a counselor, a psychiatrist, and a dermatologist. Raylee's psychiatrist, Dr. Brendan Workman, testified that he had seen Raylee from September 2016 to November 2018. Most of the diagnoses he made over that 2-year period were based on what Julie said during Raylee's appointments and what he observed, saying Raylee rarely spoke. Testifying that there was a lot going on, Dr. Workman described the symptoms for which he treated Raylee, which included anxiety, depression, self-harm, skin picking, behavioral issues, and overeating. By Raylee's last appointment, he said, Raylee was on about 6 medications to treat all of her symptoms. I'll take a quick break for a word from my sponsors. At Marty, Julie, and Sherie's joint trial, Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Alan Mock, Deputy Chief Medical Examiner Dr. C. Metin Savashman, and West Virginia University School of Medicine Professor of Pediatrics Dr. Catherine Moffat all testified to Raylee's cause of death, saying what appeared to doctors and nurses to be bruises could actually be a symptom of the pneumonia she had. All 3 testified that by the time she died, Raylee's symptoms of pneumonia would have been obvious. Dr. Mock, who didn't conduct Raylee's autopsy himself but reviewed and remarked on the report afterward, testified that the number of medications Raylee was on was alarming for an 8-year-old. These medications would not have masked any symptoms from the pneumonia. The psychiatrist prescribing these medications, he opined, likely did so based on information provided from Raylee's caregivers, which contradicted her teacher's reports that she had no behavioral issues. Most telling to me are reports from the schools because the schools are independent and they can make observations. When the school denies any disruptive behavior, it makes me question that diagnosis and the veracity of the parents' accounts. Raylee, Dr. Mock said, would have been ill, just very ill, including a high fever for several days. She had a very severe necrotizing bronchial pneumonia, an infection to the lung to the point that tissue is actually dying. I found that to be the cause of death, likely a period of sepsis before death where the lung infection spread into the blood. In Raylee's lung tissue, Dr. Savashman found the beginnings of scar tissue. Dr. Mock said, the tissue destruction I described, that also takes a period of days. This particular pneumonia developed over a period of days. You would see shortness of breath, maybe even to the point of gasping. She would have appeared ashen. Dr. Mock referenced what he said in the autopsy report. Any lay person would have recognized that the child was very ill. Treatment with antibiotics and other medical interventions could have saved Raylee's life, he said. If her caregivers had bothered to get her help, even a walk-in clinic or doctor could have treated her. Dr. Mock also testified that Raylee's malnutrition and dehydration made her more susceptible to sepsis. This child was below the 5th percentile for weight, so this is a very small, vulnerable, sick child. Dr. Moffat testified that Sherie's story about Raylee falling in the shower on December 26th was unlikely. Because of the severity of Raylee's symptoms, Dr. Moffat didn't believe she would have been able to sit up or stand on her own by that time. Charleston Area Medical Center child abuse expert Dr. Joan Phillips, who Detective James Pack mentioned speaking to in his affidavit, testified that Raylee was a victim of medical child abuse, which I've talked about at length on this podcast in the past. Medical child abuse is also referred to as Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Dr. Phillips said she came to this conclusion after reviewing medical reports from several doctors who treated Raylee over the years. She called the reports conflicting and said the doctors who wrote them depended on what they had heard from Marty and Julie regarding Raylee's symptoms. It appeared, the doctor said, that Raylee's caregivers had given false information to some medical providers and withheld information from others. Factors that played into Dr. Phillips' determination included the massive number of psychiatric drugs Raylee was on and Raylee's drastic weight loss between age 6, when she was in the 59th percentile of weight for her age, and age 8, by which time she had fallen to the 2nd percentile. The majority of this weight drop, Dr. Phillips said, occurred after Raylee was pulled out of public school to be homeschooled. The doctor also noted several discrepancies in the reports, including different and sometimes contradictory symptoms reported to different doctors, and timeline issues. In her 22 years as a pediatrician, Dr. Phillips said, she had never seen a child Raylee's age on as many psychiatric medications as Raylee was. Honestly, neither have I, even though I've got tons of experience with various psychiatric drugs. One of my kids has tried a large number of them, although never that many at one time, and I've mentioned before that I struggle with depression and anxiety, and the meds I take definitely help. I couldn't function without them. Even so, I do experience breakthrough symptoms sometimes. That's not really a surprise considering I live and breathe this dark, depressing, infuriating subject matter 7 days a week. There have been plenty of times when my meds were working just fine, but I still found myself having trouble focusing, motivating myself, and staying on track. That's why this year I'm working on investing in my mental wealth, which means I'm forming habits that build my resilience for those symptom breakthroughs and down days. Mental wealth basically comes down to 5 pillars: diet, exercise, stress management, sleep, and exogenous compounds, like the meds I take, as well as the 2 essential components of my morning routine, my massive mug of coffee and my little green Magic Mind mental performance shot. I really feel the difference on the days when I forget to throw back that little shot, so I try to do it every day. Taking it multiple days in a row means the benefits add up. I really love that with Magic Mind, I don't get that mid-afternoon caffeine crash either because of their formula's time-released caffeine and other ingredients, which give me more consistent energy throughout the day, on top of improving my clarity and focus and lowering my stress levels so every little setback doesn't send me spiraling. That takes care of 2 of the pillars of mental wealth: stress management and exogenous compounds. I'm working on diet and exercise too, but the one pillar I've always had trouble with is sleep. I never seem to get enough of it, whether I can't get to sleep in the first place or I can't stay asleep once I get there. I've recently started using Magic Mind's sleep formula too, and it's helped me wind down and stay down. So I take a green shot in the morning and a pretty little purple shot before bed, and I'm good to go, investing in my mental wealth 24 hours a day. Now you can join the January Mental Wealth Challenge too, because for the first time, Magic Mind is offering a 24-hour pack with both shots, focus and sleep, bundled together. The best part is, with my link, you can get it for 45% off. Just visit my link, magicmind.com/LAINEJAN, for 45% off the 24-hour pack, and you'll be working on your mental wealth around the clock too. There's no better time than now. Okay, back to Raylee's story. Raylee's mom, Janice Riston, also took the stand during the trial, talking about last seeing Raylee alive in June 2017, after which her visitations were taken away until July 2018. She described the day Raylee was born. The first time I held her in my arms, her hair flamed in the sunlight. Her first time opening her eyes, I got to be the first person that she's seen. It was the day I named her my sunshine. She was the brightest thing in this world. Another prosecution witness was Julie's child, who I called SC in the last episode. SC bravely testified about Raylee's abuse and punishment, including being denied food and water, walking the hallway from the time she got up until bedtime, and being locked in her room at night so she couldn't steal food. Once, she said, she found Raylee drinking from the toilet. At some point, Raylee had learned she could leave her room at night when Sherie was sleeping and go to the kitchen to eat. After that, she said, the adults put an alarm and a lock on the bedroom door so Raylee couldn't get out and eat. They also told her teachers not to feed her at school. The home, SC said, was full of tension. She attributed mostly to her Aunt Sherie. It seemed as if Raylee was always being punished, even if she hadn't done anything to deserve so. Once, when Raylee was walking the hallway, Sherie shoved her into the wall, causing her to fall into the cat's litter box. SC was asked about the incident in September 2015 when Raylee broke her femur. Raylee was upset, SC said, so Sherie took her into Sherie's bedroom. Raylee continued crying, and then SC heard a loud bang, adding, and then Sherie came out and Raylee did not. SC didn't see Raylee until the following afternoon, at which time she refused to stand or walk on her own, and she looked, I would say, more upset than usual. Sherie told Raylee, "Suck it up, Buttercup." The adults accused her of faking her injury, but of course, when they finally relented and took Raylee to the hospital, they were told she had a broken femur. When Prosecutor Parsons asked what she was told happened, SC said, "I was told she kicked a wall by Sherie." The prosecutor asked, "Is that what happened?" SC replied, "No." In the 3 or 4 days before Raylee's death, SC testified, Raylee became very sick. She couldn't get out of bed, and SC did not see anyone take Raylee food, water, or medicine during that time. Sherie accused Raylee of faking being sick for attention. Around Christmas Eve, SC testified, Raylee's condition grew worse. When she breathed, it sounded like she was snoring, like when a pug breathes. She was fighting for her air like she was snoring. When the idea of going to the hospital came up, SC said, "I remember Julie asking who was going to take her and in what vehicle, but I don't remember anything else." The fact that SC called her biological mother Julie during her testimony is pretty telling. Julie asked Raylee if she was okay with spending Christmas in the hospital, SC said, and Raylee said that she was and that she wanted to go to the hospital, but they still didn't take her. The last time she saw Raylee, SC said, was when she was being carried to the ambulance. She and her siblings only found out about Raylee's death days later from a foster care intake worker. Before I tell you about some of the most important and compelling testimony in the whole trial, I'll take another brief sponsor break. A star witness for the prosecution was Raylee's teacher, Carrie Ciliberti, who at the time had been a teacher for 36 years. About Raylee, Ms. Ciliberti said, "I met Raylee when she was in kindergarten. She was very lively, outgoing, smart." She described Raylee as intelligent and an average kindergarten student whose emotional maturity level was very normal. Shortly after kindergarten started, I noticed she wanted a lot of attention. She wanted to hold my hand when we would walk laps. If they had free time, she would choose to stand with me, talk with me. It appeared as if she wanted adult attention. She would tell me things. I understood that she lived with her father and his girlfriend and her sister, and she would visit her mother on certain weekends. She was always very happy to go visit with her mother. She would tell me on Fridays, "I get to go see my mother." On Mondays, she would say, "Oh, we decorated a cake, we made cookies." She also told me at one point, "I'm not allowed to see my mommy anymore. My mommy doesn't love me. My mommy's having a new baby to replace me." She didn't ask what Raylee meant, adding, "She was already upset enough." I asked who told her. Julie's attorney, Mark Plants, objected, "This is all hearsay. She is repeating what Raylee told her." Sherie's attorney, Evan Dove, also objected that Ms. Ciliberti was using the words Raylee's mommy. Judge Blake overruled both, saying, "You're going to get a cross-examination. You'll get a chance to ask her." In first grade, Ms. Ciliberti testified, "Raylee, was a very normal, happy, happy-go-lucky, fun-loving child. I saw Raylee every day. I had breakfast duty, so the days that I saw her at breakfast, that was 10 minutes. I had her in either gym, health, or art class for 40 minutes, and I had lunch duty with Raylee's class, so that was another 30 minutes. She never saw self-harm or other problem behaviors from Raylee, she said. When she was with me in my class, if we were in a classroom setting, she was a normal, everyday student, sat there like everyone else. If we were outside or in the gym, she liked to be close to me. She was clingy. She wanted adult attention. Typically, she refrained from playing with her peers a lot. She wanted to be with an adult a lot. That is not typical. Raylee's clinginess, she said, was far beyond that of a normal child. The teacher testified about 2 of the referrals she made to CPS about Raylee. One about her broken femur during her kindergarten year, and one regarding an incident when Raylee pulled up her pants leg to show Ms. Ciliberti boo-boos on her calves, including bruises and small round scabs. Raylee told her, "But my daddy says I'm not allowed to show you these, and if you have any questions, you need to call my daddy." After one of the adults in the household called the school in September 2015 to report that Raylee had a temper tantrum, kicked a wall, and broke her femur, Ms. Ciliberti contacted CPS. A broken femur is a significant injury. It's not a common injury, and the explanation for the injury did not fit the injury. Nicholas County CPS, she said, didn't contact her about the referral. She made another referral, she said, when a classmate of one of Julie's kids told a teacher the family kept Raylee locked in a laundry room. Raylee's first-grade teacher also made a referral, Ms. Ciliberti said, after she saw a handprint on Raylee's upper arm, which the first-grade teacher also saw. Ms. Ciliberti said she sat in on a CPS interview with Raylee and SC, conducted by none other than CPS Supervisor Joe Sorrent, who was on the defense witness list. You might recall that he was also a defendant in Janice's since-dismissed federal lawsuit against the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Services, which oversaw CPS. After the interview, Ms. Ciliberti said, Mr. Sorrent said to her, "I don't think Raylee's being abused, but I do think she's the targeted child in the family." Mr. Dove asked her to define targeted. "In my opinion, it means treated differently than the other children, punished more harshly." Mr. Dove clarified, "But he did tell you he did not believe there's abuse, correct?" Ms. Ciliberti replied, "Correct." She also said that Mr. Sorrent told her, "I believe that the children are very well coached." When it was time for parent pickup at the end of the school day, Ms. Ciliberti tearfully said on the stand, Raylee wanted to stay at school. "She would hang on me. She would put her arms around my waist and lock her legs around my legs. She would say, 'I love you. Could you be my mommy?' It was obvious she wanted to stay at school." Ms. Ciliberti testified that Marty had given Sherie permission to pick up the kids from school. She was the primary caregiver for the children, and Raylee's father had given her permission to deal with school things. Asked about Raylee's eating habits, Ms. Ciliberti said that Sherie had told teachers not to feed Raylee breakfast. "We were told that Raylee had an eating disorder and that she would be fed at home." When Prosecutor Parsons asked what resulted from these directions from Sherie, Ms. Ciliberti said, "Not much. We fed her. She was hungry. Raylee never came out and said, 'I'm hungry.' She would say her belly hurt and ask to go to the restroom." Marty, Julie, and Sherie even supplied the school with a doctor's note saying that Raylee's caretakers had reported she had an eating disorder. Teachers saw that Raylee was hungry but afraid to ask for food, so they started feeding her during bathroom breaks. Ms. Ciliberti didn't see any signs of an eating disorder and had never seen an elementary school student with an eating disorder. She never saw Raylee throwing up, but she was losing weight. "I saw a child who was hungry." Tearfully, Ms. Ciliberti said, "If we had something like mashed potatoes and gravy, she would lick her tray, eat every bite." In kindergarten, Raylee's clothes were too small and too tight, as well as not seasonally appropriate. Often she would wear, in August when it's 90 degrees, long pants and long sleeves. One of the things that you look for in child abuse is inappropriate clothing to cover injuries. When, on one hot day, Miss Ciliberti gave Raylee a t-shirt to change into instead of the pink sweatshirt she wore, she saw marks and bruises on Raylee's body. When Raylee later brought the shirt back in a Walmart bag, she told her teacher, "My daddy said, 'I can't take your clothes, that you're not allowed to give me clothes.'" At the beginning of first grade, Miss Ciliberti said, Raylee had lost weight. She had black circles around her eyes. Her eyes were sunken in. Her cheekbones were sticking out. She was pale. She was not healthy-looking at all. The teacher testified, I told the board superintendent that if Raylee was allowed to be withdrawn and homeschooled, that she would die. During cross-examination, the defense attorneys implied that Janice or one of Julie's kids could have caused Raylee's various injuries. Julie and Sherie's sister, Angela Young, came from Alabama to testify, saying that Julie and others asked her to lie on the stand, and not just once. There have been several incidents where I have had people telling me to say I was with them in the house on Christmas Day, or say that I at least FaceTimed the kids on Christmas Day. The prosecutor asked, wanting you to say you saw Raylee fine as a fiddle on Christmas Day? Ms. Young replied, yes, sir, and I can't testify to that because I did not see her. After the state rested its case, the defense moved to dismiss the charges, saying the state hadn't provided sufficient evidence. I understand it's just a formality and happens during many trials, but come on. Judge Blake denied the motions, saying the state provided enough evidence for the jury to make a decision about the defendant's guilt. Testimony by the defense witnesses was, based on the news coverage, not very, let's say, robust. Julie and Sherie's adult nephew testified that he never saw Raylee denied food and water or being abused. Fellow homeschool mom Linnea Castle gave testimony along the same lines. The day Raylee died, Linnea was the friend whose home Sherie disappeared to with the other 3 kids. Ms. Castle, a longtime family friend of the Titchenells, said she had once seen Raylee eating until she threw up and later asking for more food. She could eat as much as I could and then turn around and say she was starving, didn't eat, and needed food right now. She testified that she was in the home off and on from December 23rd through 25th, 2018. At the time, she said Raylee had a sniffle, but she didn't think Raylee was sick. Another friend of Sherie's testified that at some point she saw Raylee hit herself, pick at her skin, and make herself bleed. The friend said that Sherie was calm and told Raylee not to pick at herself. She and another individual testified that in their belief, Raylee was never excluded from family outings. One news outlet said that Sherie's sister-in-law testified. This must have been either the sister of Sherie's ex-husband in Florida or the wife of Sherie's brother, although in that case I would think they would describe her as Julie and Sherie's sister-in-law. At any rate, the woman testified that she saw Raylee at a family party about 3 days before she died, saying Raylee was eating and didn't appear sick. You know, exactly like Sherie and Julie wanted their sister Angela to lie about on the stand. Julie and Sherie's other sister, Donna Jaber, came from Florida to testify as well, saying she FaceTimed with Raylee, who didn't appear sick, on Christmas Day. She visited West Virginia at least twice a year, Donna said, and never saw Raylee, who she considered her niece, being abused. What's that? Someone else telling a similar story the Witchenell gals asked their other sister to lie about? Weird. Totally unrelated and all, but imagine lying during sworn court testimony about a little girl's death. Anyway, Dr. Cyril Wecht, the celebrity forensic pathologist I mentioned earlier, testified remotely, agreeing with the West Virginia medical examiner's assessments that Raylee died from sepsis due to pneumonia, but saying he believed she died from natural causes. Dr. Wecht himself died in May 2024 at the age of 93. Time for one last word from my sponsors. After a week of testimony, both sides made their closing arguments on Monday, June 13, 2022. Prosecutor Brian Parsons told the jury the system in place to protect Raylee failed her because her caregivers knew how to abuse the system. Based on information from those caregivers, he reminded jurors, Raylee had been diagnosed with autism, a binge eating disorder, self-mutilation, behavior disorder, anxiety disorder, ADHD, and borderline personality disorder. Let me interject here to say that BPD can be diagnosed in kids as young as 11, not 8 like Raylee was, but it's rare that a child under 13 would receive that diagnosis. In my experience, most mental health professionals are very hesitant to assign the BPD diagnosis to kids under 18. Mr. Parsons showed jurors Raylee's many prescription bottles, which were nearly full, meaning the adults hadn't even been giving them to Raylee as prescribed. He wondered aloud if it was more disturbing that she was prescribed all of these meds, or if her caregivers weren't giving them to her. Refusing to call Marty a parent, Mr. Parsons mentioned that Julie told Marty on December 20th that Raylee needed to go to the hospital, but none of them took her, likely because they were afraid her body showed signs of abuse. He argued that based on her body temperature being below 84 degrees Fahrenheit or 29 degrees Celsius when she arrived at the hospital, Raylee was likely dead for some time before Sherie's 911 call at 11:42 a.m. Julie's attorney, Mr. Plants, said in his closing argument that Julie saw Raylee eat on Christmas Day, so she didn't think Raylee needed to go to the hospital. Also, he said, the medical experts agreed Raylee died from pneumonia, and all of Raylee's injuries were in places she could reach, so they could be self-inflicted. Mr. Dove argued in his closing argument on Sherie's behalf that the case was about constitutional rights. Should parents who make a mistake in judgment go to prison? The only compelling state's witness, he said, was Julie's child, who was clever enough 4 years ago to trick Nicholas County CPS workers. Marty's attorney, Steve Mancini, argued that the defendants couldn't be convicted under the Fayette Circuit Court jurisdiction because most of their abuse allegations took place in Nicholas County. Mr. Parsons responded by saying, Raylee's last words, on the record at least, were, "I want to go to the hospital." She was desperate to save her life. I implore you, don't let Raylee down. The system had let Raylee down, he reminded the court. I hope that out of this, that there continues to be concerns raised and importance placed on taking care of children who are in homeschooling and aren't in the public school system, because they're really an at-risk population. We need to have a mechanism to make sure that our kids are being appropriately educated and appropriately protected in or out of the public school system. Amen. The jury deliberated for only 3.5 hours before returning with verdicts on both counts for all 3 defendants. On their lesser charge of child neglect resulting in death, Marty Browning Jr., Sherie Titchenell, and Julie Titchenell Browning were found guilty. On the more serious charge of death of a child by a parent, guardian, or custodian by child abuse, which could have landed them in prison for life, they were found not guilty. Why? Largely because, number 1, their continued abuse of Raylee did not directly cause her death, but rather the medical neglect did. And number 2, as Mr. Mancini argued, most of the alleged abuse occurred in Nicholas County, not in Fayette County, where the charges were brought. Talk about a technicality. Yet another system failed Raylee. I don't have the words to describe how unfair this is. After the verdict, Judge Blake revoked the defendant's cash bond, ordering the 3 convicted felons into custody. They would await sentencing in the Southern Regional Jail. Janice told the Register-Herald after the verdict that she was relieved the trial was over, adding, "This will help me feel some peace, a little bit, at least for her and our whole family. It's been hard, very hard." Monday, July 11th, 2022, should have been Raylee's 12th birthday. Now that the trial was over, Janice felt she was able to celebrate Raylee's birthday for the first time since her death. The family gathered for a candlelight vigil in Raylee's honor. The family shared memories of Raylee at the vigil. Her sister JoLynn, 6 at the time of the vigil, said that Raylee loved to hold and feed her.
Raylee took very good care of me, and she loved me a lot.
Janice decorated a cake for the vigil, her first time doing so since 2018. It featured a pink and purple silhouette of Raylee's favorite princess, Rapunzel, as well as a bright yellow sun. Raylee loved to be there whenever I decorated cakes. She took so much part in it that it broke my heart to make them without her. In the Disney movie Tangled, Rapunzel is trapped in a tower by a caregiver who kept her away from her family. Janice told reporter Jessica Farish she believed Raylee might have identified with Rapunzel, who ultimately escaped. Janice also said she thought about her daughter every day.
She was an amazing, empathetic, beautiful, loving, loved to be loved, hugged child. Loved sunrises, loved horses, loved school, loved. She had so much love for so many different things. She loved to talk about Jesus, anything to do with Jesus and the heavens and how God made the earth. Raylee had mentioned that she forgave her other household for hurting her.
During the vigil, attendees lit candles while listening to a very special song that Janice used to sing to her baby, "You Are My Sunshine." In August 2022, Fayette County Circuit Judge Paul Blake sentenced each defendant separately to spend 3 to 15 years in prison. He chastised each of them about their lack of caring and decency, and he told Marty, "Any decent father would have scooped her up and took her to get help. Where's your decency? You stood by and watched this child die." On Christmas night, Judge Blake said, "You went to sleep that night while your child was dying, and you didn't care enough to do anything." Julie told the judge at her hearing that she wished she had done more to help Raylee. "Yeah, I bet she does now." During her hearing, Sherie told the judge that she loved Raylee. "I wish I would have seen more signs and symptoms." The judge replied, "I don't think you cared what happened to her. The person who showed the most emotion was the EMS person you handed Raylee's body to. If you had taken the steps of any caring, humane individual, she would be alive today." Janice was permitted to speak at Marty's sentencing hearing, telling her monster of an ex that he couldn't ignore the fact that their daughter was dead. "You failed her horribly. You had to notice her losing weight. You can't pretend that our daughter isn't gone, and I blame you." Prosecutor Parsons said that justice had been served even if it didn't feel that way. "The most troubling aspect of the defendant's conduct and what warrants the term of imprisonment is that it was so simple to save this child's life. It didn't require major effort or multiple trips to St. Jude or Duke or even to Morgantown. A 15-minute trip to Med Express would have saved, in all likelihood, this child's life. This is what justice looks like at the end of a case like this. It doesn't feel that way because it's hard to imagine the loss of an 8-year-old child. My thought is that they will serve more than 3 years. The parole board will look at both their conduct that led them to be in prison and their conduct while they are in prison."
The judge was very critical of the current public policy regarding homeschooling and how students are permissively withdrawn from the public school system for homeschooling. There's no question in this case that contributed to ultimately the child's death.
37-year-old Marty Lee Browning Jr. is serving his sentence in the Pruneytown Correctional Center in Grafton, West Virginia. Julie Dawn Browning, now 39, and her 38-year-old sister, Sherie Titchenell, are both incarcerated in the Lakin Correctional Center in West Columbia, West Virginia. All 3 defendants are scheduled for parole hearings in June of 2025. Janice Riston, Raylee's mom, will be at every future parole hearing to tell Raylee's story and convince the parole board that the 3 people who killed her daughter need to stay behind bars. Now, let's talk about Raylee, because it's so important to remember these kids for who they were as people, no matter how little, and not just for the awful things that happened to them.
Day to you, happy birthday, Raylee. Happy birthday to you. The name's Ken. I get none of that. You got one left. No. Blow it out, Raylee. Yeah, yay. It's her birthday. Yeah. Good job, Raylee. How old are you? 4 years old. Mommy loves.
That was the sound of Raylee's 4th birthday party, which was a joint party for Raylee and her maternal aunt. Heartbreakingly, that's the only video Janice has left of her sunshine, after the iPad she kept all of her videos on was stolen. Because this is Raylee's story, she deserves to be remembered as the sweet, bright, loving little girl she was. Raylee JoLynn Browning was a beautiful little girl with strawberry blonde hair, blue eyes, the cutest cheeks, and pink Cupid's bow lips that turned into the sweetest smile you might ever see. She looked just like her mama. Raylee loved to play with her dolls and play dress-up. She and her sister, JoLynn, loved playing together. JoLynn would often sleep with a picture of Raylee in a princess frame, and at night before going to sleep, she told Janice, "This is Raylee, my sister. Mommy, I love my sister." Raylee last saw her older brother Wyatt when she was 6 years old, but Janice fondly remembers that she would kiss her brother's cheek every time she hugged him. Raylee and her siblings loved the summertime. They played in the sandbox and threw water balloons at each other. Janice said in one of her Facebook posts, "They would play so hard, the bedtime was never really a challenge." Janice, who described Raylee as my innocent, beautiful, smart, happy, loving daughter, my baby girl, my sunshine, listed several things that Raylee loved. To get to come live with us, her mommy, stepdad, and all her siblings. She wanted to go to church every Sunday. She loved Sunday school. She had so much love for so many people and so many things. She loved to go swimming, loved to sleep in her footed Rapunzel PJs, loved to be loved on, loved to wake up early and watch the sunrise with me. She loved her Rapunzel doll and her Anna doll. Loved that she was a big sister. She loved when I sang "You Are My Sunshine" to her. I can't really sing, but she loved it. Loved for me to read books and tell made-up stories at bedtime. Loved those sticker tattoos. Loved to go to Nina and Papa's. She also wanted to learn how to ride a horse one day and wanted to go to the beach. She loved learning games on her iPad. Loved school and all her teachers. She wanted to do good in school and graduate from college to be a school teacher. I say this again, Raylee loved her school teachers. She said she wanted to be a mommy one day like me and love her kids like I loved her, with all my heart. My goodness, I loved every little ounce of her. I loved my sunshine. Loved her soft, kind, sweet, loving heart of gold. Loved her adorable giggle when she laughed. Loved her button nose. Loved to snuggle with her. Loved to wake up to her in the morning. She'd stay just so we could snuggle till the sun was up. I loved to watch the Disney movies with her. I loved to color with her. Loved the words she'd whisper when the sun came up. "Mommy, the sun's awake." She had this smile and this kind of love in her heart that anyone would just smile seeing her. In June 2020, after I released my initial episode about Raylee, both Janice and her husband Jeremy reached out to me to let me know that they enjoyed the episode. Jeremy told me, "You are the voice for Raylee JoLynn. We are very pleased with your podcast and urge you to keep talking about Raylee. She was a beautiful little girl with a heart so full of love." Janice told me, "Raylee was my heart, and now and forever it will always be broken. She was the most adorable, sweet, smart, innocent, loving, happy, healthy, snuggly baby girl with a heart full of love." I can promise Janice one thing for absolute certain. I'll never stop talking about her sunshine. My sources for this episode were the same as for parts 1 and 2. Shout out to my newest patrons, Caitlin G. from Martin, Ohio, and from, I'm guessing, somewhere very heavenly, thank you to Your Majesty God. Thanks, as always, to all of my patrons. And don't forget, you can also support me by supporting my sponsors. I'd love it if you join me in the January Mental Wealth Challenge. You can get 45% off Magic Mind's 24 Hours pack containing the focus and sleep shots in one bundle by using my link, magicmind.com/LAINEJAN. In the next episode, you'll hear my conversation with my dear friend, Raylee's mom, Janice Riston, who's finally able to talk freely about the legal case, her experiences, and her sunshine, and I'm honored to give her a platform to do that. That's it for this episode. Join me next time for the conclusion of Raylee's story. If you like the show, please follow or subscribe to Suffer the Little Children on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast listening app. And please leave me a 5-star rating and a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. Visit the website at sufferthelittlechildrenpod.com. You can support the show by visiting patreon.com/STLCpod, where you can become a patron for rewards ranging from a shout-out by name on the show to exclusive gifts. You can also support the show at ko-fi.com/STLCpod. Follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Suffer the Little Children Pod and on TikTok at STLCpod. View photos related to today's episode on Facebook. This podcast is researched, written, hosted, edited, and produced by Lane. Intro theme music is by Dream Note Music, and all music for the show is licensed from audiojungle.net. For more information about preventing or reporting child abuse, visit childhelp.org or call your area's child abuse hotline. And remember, if you see something, say something.